Hi there, welcome to the latest episode and the first of today's 10-minute moans. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is MSP John Mason getting a bit of stick for actually saying something, and I was quite amazed that John Mason was capable of saying something that actually did make sense. So, this story, which is covered all over the mainstream media, but I'm going to use the STV's report for resourcing. Headline is, veteran SNP MSP stripped of party whip over Gaza remarks. The member for Glasgow Shettleston made the remarks on Friday night. So, I like what the STV do, they put the key points at the top of the page. SNP MSP John Mason stripped of whip after remarks on Gaza. Not Paul Gascoigne, the bit in Palestine. Party condemns abhorrent comments on social media. Row over meeting with Israeli Deputy Ambassador. The First Minister said the meeting was necessary to put across the need for a ceasefire. So that's the key points. And the story is, John Mason, MSP, has been stripped of the SNP whip with immediate effect over remarks he made about Gaza on social media. The member for Glasgow Shettleston made the comments over reaction to Scottish External Affairs Secretary Angus Robertson meeting with the Deputy Ambassador of Israel. A spokesperson for the SNP Chief Whip said on Saturday morning that there can be no room in the party for this kind of intolerance. How dare you be so intolerant? In a statement to STV News, Mason said he's obviously disappointed about the decision, but it will work its way through the party process in the usual way. He added that too many lives have already been lost in the conflict and his primary desire was for peace in the region. However, Mason also said, I personally do not believe that Israel has committed or is committing genocide. They certainly have the ability to kill many more Palestinians than they have done. That's not to say that the loss of life already is not too many. Robertson met Daniela Grudsky in Edinburgh last week, as did Mason, despite opposition from within the party, which has consistently called for a ceasefire in Gaza. Mason, the member for Glasgow Shettleston, posted to X, formerly Twitter. See, I hate that when folk do that, because I don't go, going to get is a Snickers bar, formerly Marathon. Right, it's X. It's not been Twitter for a while now. So anyway, slightly less important, I've heard in the story, but it's a wee petty, I mean. So anyway, Mason said, if Israel wanted to commit genocide, they would have killed 10 times as many. It was a response to the former SNP MSP Sandra White, who said, we know what Israelis hope to achieve. They are already committing genocide in Glasgow. You mentioned talk while innocent children are being massacred. Right, so the story's not finished, by the way. I'm just going to add a wee comment in for myself. I kind of had this debate with somebody on Twitter not that long ago when they're on about the genocide. The genocide's like wiping out a whole race or a whole population or a whole type of people. And I says, well, what's the population of Palestine pre-7th of October and what's the population now? Because I do believe there's been a lot of people murdered and a lot of people killed. So let's not beat about the bush. The numbers are quite high and it's quite horrific, and obviously there's lots of children, and that's no nice thing, right? So nobody's saying that. But if you wanted to commit genocide, they're kind of not getting it too quick, are they? They could have dropped a big bomb, for example, and killed everybody in Palestine if that was their desire. So although it's not a nice topic, and I know I actually sound bizarre, even these words just about to exit my mouth, I kind of agree with John Mason that, yes, there's been too many murders, too many killed, too many children harmed in a war, but that kind of happens and it's really unpleasant and not nice. But to use the word genocide, that would suggest to me almost all the population. That's like what you do when you want to commit genocide. So they might have killed a lot of people, but it's no genocide, because genocide is the act of like total wipeout. So it's just a word that's been used to demonise a war, a horrific war, a war that I wish hadn't happened, right? Any normal-minded person would, I would suggest, be the same. But I don't think it is genocide. Because if it's genocide, they're not doing a very good job of it, right? They have killed loads of people. But if they want to commit genocide, they've failed because there's still loads left, right? So I'm not trying to say it's right. All I'm saying is this word, genocide, has been used inappropriately in this instance, and therefore John Mason is correct. The full statement reads, to flippantly dismiss the deaths of more than 40,000 Palestinians is completely unacceptable. There can be no room in the SNP for this kind of intolerance. The Chief Whip has today withdrawn the whip from John Mason MSP with immediate effect, pending internal parliamentary group due process. The SNP group will now meet to discuss the matter with the recommendations that the whip be suspended from John Mason for a fixed period of time because of the utterly abhorrent comment. That's fine. That's what you're allowed to do. It's your party. I don't care who you've got in the whip or not in the whip. Israel launched a military campaign on Gaza in response to the unprecedented attack by Hamas on October 8th. Is it only 7th? They launched on October 8th, right, I get it. During which over 1,000 people were killed and 251 taken hostage. The Hamas-run health ministry in the territory says more than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed since then. So the source for the number is Hamas-run health ministry. I think that's important to consider. If they're wrong and it's no 40,000, it was 20 or 30, it's still a bloody big number of people, which would have been nicer if it wasn't. But when Hamas say it's 40,000, it might not be, right? Israel says it's killed more than 17,000 Hamas militants in the war without providing evidence. So both sides are putting figures on it, and either might be true. Anyway, the Scottish First Minister John Swinney said Robertson's meeting with Ms Grudsky was necessary and allowed the Scottish Government to put across the need for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. His intervention came after Scottish Greens MSP Ross Greer accused the Scottish Government of taking a two-faced approach by publicly condemning the actions of Israel while conducting secret meetings. Okay. So, that's the story. What I find mental is, right, up until John Mason always says daft things, by the way, and I sometimes think he says a lot of things without actually considering what he's about to type. He seems one of these people that just has to type something, right? And in this occasion, I actually think he's done the boy Angus Robertson and John Swinney a big, massive favour. Favour? That ain't a word. It might be a word, but it's not a British word, not an English word. Favour. He's done them a massive favour because they were getting a bit of heat since this meeting. And the other thing was they never met them and put out the press release and the photographs that day. They sort of held back a wee bit, which was a bit bizarre. So anyway, since the story hit about this meeting with the Deputy Ambassador for Israel, they've been getting it a bit stinking. Angus Robertson's been told to resign. John Swinney's been told to resign. So this probably suits them because it's now like what he said's dafter than us. By the way, Elon, he's going to stay there for a while, right? And his pure presence will upset some people. Anyhow, so I think what's happened is John Mason opening his mouth again and just blabbering, or sorry, typing again, because he's sent a tweet, right? But he's doubled down, because when STV contacted him, where's that quote? I'll get that quote again. Where are we? In a statement to the STV, Mason said he was obviously disappointed, blah, blah, blah. I personally do not believe that Israel has committed or is committing genocide, right? So he's just pure doubled down, right? He spent a text the other night on that Twitter, and I'm just standing by it, but tenfold now. So go and stick that in your paper if you want to, right? And I think he's daft, right? He's an MSP, for God's sake. He's not in the cabinet, so therefore he's no part of government, but he is in the party that is governed. And in a parliament where they've got no legal way of influencing foreign policy, because foreign policy, etc., is non-devolved. That's a protected policy department by Westminster. So you can't do anything about Gaza. So it'd be like talking about the moon landings. It doesn't matter. You're an MSP. You don't control NASA, right? So why you feel you need to comment on it is a bit bizarre. And you'd probably been better shutting your mouth. But at the end of the day, he's probably saved any more people questioning John Swinney or Angus Robertson standing down. So they should actually go up and give him a wee pat in the back. Say, here, John, thanks very much for that, mate, right? You've took a wee bit of heat off us and we'll suspend you for the party whip for about a month, okay? And John Mason will be like, brilliant, because if I'm not in the party whip, I don't need to vote the way you tell me to, and I can do what I want in Parliament for a month or two. So, anyway, there we go. I think it's magic because, see, especially the cult nationalists, they're gone mental. They've been gone mental now for about 3 days on this. You know, it was sack John Swinney, sack Angus Robertson, sack everybody. Knew it's John Mason's just became the target for their frustrations and sometimes hatred, I think, perfectly honest with you. So there you go. Oh, and something that's really important before I forget, on the same subject, I hope you all appreciate Humza Yousaf's wife, you know, Al Nakla, Nadia El Nakla. She demands an apology. She's been demanded an apology of the SNP for them just having a meeting with this Israeli diplomat. So I'm not sure at this precise moment if Donald Trump and Joe Biden are aware of what's going on here. But, you know, such an important person in world affairs is demanding an apology for this peace-wrecking meeting between an Israeli diplomat and a guy in the Scottish government that can't really influence anything foreign policy anyway. So, fair play to you, sister, right? If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing and hitting the notifications bell. Get involved in the chat down below. It's always a good laugh, right? And we'll say bye-bye. Bye, Elon. See you soon, mate. As long as you're not the SNP or any of the ever decreasing cult members who get offended by everything, everyone else in the world, have a great day. Cheery bye now.